fish, food.
Okay, we don't know what we're calling this fly, but it's a Zonker with an epoxy head, kind of a little bit different tie. So one of the reasons why I started messing with this is because this cool new hook, the Hanek Streamer Max X95 XH1, this says eat bologna sandwiches and tuna fish. It's really good for your health. Also, it's really sharp. Made in Japan, quantity 20. That's check for you. So that is verified. And it has a cool front too. Check it out. All right. So I have 140 denier thread, and I'm just going to lock this bead in place. This is a 3.8 millimeter, I think like a fluorescent pink, metallic pink. One of the reasons why I chose this is it just blows up with UV light. If I could hit it right. Boom. Get these beads and the light pink ones, and they have really crazy UV properties. But I'm just going to crisscross over the top of this a couple times, then go back to the end of my fly, and I'm just going to take the regular rabbit strip, not the Magnum. I really like the way that just a regular rabbit strip rides, and on the back of it, it's kind of hard to see the little tab here with it being white, and I'm just going to cut that into a point, as you've seen me do with a lot of other flies. That is really bright white. There you go. All right, so I'm going to have roughly the distance between the bead and the shank of the hook, or the bend of the hook. That's how much I want coming out the back of the fly. So I'm just going to preen the fibers forward, moisten it a little bit, and create like a little separated tie-in point. So once I have that how I want it, I'm just going to tie that in with a few wraps, pull it tight, and then I'm going to pull everything out of the way. And on this part, I'm going to use Prism SLF dub. It's a really fine dub, very similar to ice dub, and this one's called Ice Pearl. So just take a bunch of that, dub it on your thread, and make a noodle and taper it forward. Now I will not talk, and Curtis will play music while I do this. So as you can see, I've slightly tapered up the body, and before I do anything else, I'm going to take a little bit more of this dub, and I'm just going to kind of make it loose in my fingers and just put that right on top of the bead and tie in a clump of a lump dub or clump dub style right behind the bead and pull tight, and then just kind of distribute that back, and that will kind of create a little bit of a veiled effect. And then I'll come in here with my dubbing brush and pick out some of these fibers, and that really shows through in the water once it gets wet. You can see those little UV colorations. So I'm going to pull that fiber down on each side, because now I'm going to pull the Zonker strip over. So I'll advance my thread over the bead one more time, and that's where I'll tie in the Zonker. Again, I'm going to create like a little separation by moistening my fingers and tie that down with just a few wraps in front of the hook, or in front of the bead, and trim that off. Okay, so we've got a really slim fly here, and I'm going to add a collar to it. I had been trimming off some rabbit fur and putting it in a dubbing loop, but I'm just going to use crosscut rabbit instead. It's really cool material, it lays down nice. And I have plenty of room in front of that bead to wrap some rabbit strips. So with the fibers pointing down, I'm just going to catch that leather strip and tie it in, or the fibers are now facing toward me. So if I do that and I wrap forward, it's going to naturally push those fibers backward. If they're facing forward, just take it off and tie it in the reverse way that you just did. So now the cool thing about this is if I pull down really hard, it kind of compresses that rabbit hide and doesn't create a lot of bulk. Okay, so here I'm ready to tie off. So again, I'm going to make a separation of the fibers with a little bit of moisture on my fingers and come in here and catch that. And I'm going to put the tips of my scissors down and just kind of trim that off tight. So it's not a very clean head right now. If you moisten your fingers again and pull that back, get rid of all these rabbit hairs flying everywhere. From here, I'm going to build up kind of a bulky-ish thread head. Before I do that though, I'm going to distribute out the rabbit fibers. Make sure they're all nice and picked out and flowy the way that we want them to be, just like that. And yes, you could fish this fly just like this, not a problem. But we're going to add two really important features that I think really make it fish better. All right, so I'm going to use 3/16 eyes. These are super pearl eyes. And I just want to make this head wide enough so that one of those eyes will fit. So I'm going to wrap back roughly 3/16 from the eye of the hook. So we're pretty close. Brigham just walked in. Careful. All right, so another cool little thing I'm going to do to this fly is add some kind of lateral lines or hot spots. This is fluorofiber and it's really visible even just with a few strands. And so I'm going to tie a few fibers on each side of the fly. You're talking like 7 or 8 fibers each. So if you moisten the tips of these fibers, you can see that they create a nice little tie-in point or a tie-in section. So I just tie one section in like that, and I'll come in here and trim that off about equal to the bend of the hook. And I'll just do that on the other side too. Okay, so trim that off the same length. Okay, so I have two little pink sections, and now I'm just going to whip finish my head and resin some eyes on. Okay, so critical to get these eyes to stick properly, you get some flat jawed forceps or needle nose pliers, whatever. I have the Loon Rogue grips. Put it in the fat part of the vise and smash it flat so that you can see now it's a fairly flat head. Those eyes will stick on it better. Also, with my resin heads, I've started to just tack down a little tiny bit of super glue on each side of the head so that the eyes will stick a little bit better before I start to get the resin going. Okay, so the eyes are in place. I'm going to kind of give them a good mash. Moisten the fibers because now I'm going to put some resin on the head here. A cool resin we've been playing with is the Loon colored resins. I'm going to put some hot pink on this one because we have other hot pink flavors on this. So just put a little bit on the throat. It's just going to add a little bit of a hot spot there. This fly's all about hot spots. And now I'll take some Loon thick resin and build the head out of it. So fill in the top gap and then just do a ring of resin around the head. And once you have this, you're going to distribute this around, and I like to push it back behind the eye just enough so it kind of starts to stick into the materials behind the eye, and that will help so it encapsulates the whole head and makes it more durable. As you can see, there's a little strip that's hanging out right there, and it's best just to let the resin ball up on it or seep back down into the head. I'll be able to trim that guy off once I cure it. Alright, so I'm going to give it a spin. Let the eyes even out, and now hit it with the UV light. Trim that off. And now to really set this, I've been liking the Solar Res Bone Dry quite a bit. With a trim down brush, you can just barely get any on there. Will make a really super durable head. There you have it, the epoxy-eyed Zonker.